welcome you to the Technical Coordinating Committee and the Executive Board of the Clarksville Urbanized Area Metropolitan Planning Organization meeting. It is Thursday, April 25th, 2024. The time is 11 a.m. and we'll call this meeting to order. First item, probably the most important item on our agenda, is to recognize J. Stanley Williams for 27 years and 8 months with the Clarksville MPO. He'll retire at the end of May 2024, and without a doubt, Stan, you will be missed, without a doubt. Stan Williams has been a champion of transportation infrastructure for this region for a long, long time. And on behalf of the MPO and the city of Clarksville and everybody, thank you, and you deserve a round of applause. Anybody wish to have any? This is not a roast of Stan. This is merely we're just saying goodbye. Anybody on the committee or in the public, will go out of order a little bit, wish to say anything about Stan or to him?
I just don't know who we're going to call anymore to figure out what all these acronyms mean. Even when I called Jeff Tyndall, he says, "Hey, let me call Stan real quick." Happened yesterday, I think. Happened yesterday. Now, we appreciate your service, Stan, and I know you've been here for a long time, and you'll be missed. And I think everybody here doesn't realize just how much work you do. They'll figure it out soon when you're gone, though. But thank you, sir. We appreciate you, brother.
Anybody else? Jeff? Mr. Tyndall, you're recognized.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. I'll say, as Stan's boss, and I just use that term loosely, he and Jill have been just a department that handles everything. I don't have to worry about anything about transportation. Since day one, he has handled it all. In fact, anytime he'd be out for vacation, that's when I start sweating a little bit, because if those calls start coming in, I'm the fill-in, and it's a world that I don't always understand everything that goes on. I learn a little more every month, but Stan has been a rock here for, as you said, many years. He'll definitely be missed. We're going to definitely have him on speed dial for a few months, though, too. So thank you, Stan, for everything. Thanks for making my transition, even though it's already been 6 years, but it was easy to come in and not have to worry about this whole side of the operation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Floor is open.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be brief. Thank you all for allowing me to serve and work for you. It's been an honor, and there's a lot of people not in the room today, or maybe not even in the state, that made the job a whole lot easier. And again, I just remind you, it's not Jill and my MPO, it's your MPO. And I think it's like any organization or anything you do, if you put into it, I think you'll get that back out. But again, it's been a true honor working with everyone, and again, a lot of people not in the room. So thank you again.
Thank you, Stan. Stan, I've got a certificate from the city of Clarksville I want to give to you, as well as a mayor's coin, or probably in your next season, it's probably a ball marker on the green. But I just want to say thank you. We've been friends almost the whole time that you've been here. So, Stan, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's proceed with the next order of business, the review, discussion, adoption of the minutes from the March 21st, 2024 meeting. I'll entertain a motion and get those before us.
Motion for approval.
Second.
Thank you for the motion. Second. Any addition, deletion, or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Anybody wish to abstain? The minutes are adopted. Next item up is item 3, review, discussion, adoption of resolution 2024-09 of the Safe Streets and Roads for All SS4A Safety Action Plan. Mr. Williams.
Mr. Chairman, I'll touch on your resolution in front of you. Again, the bipartisan infrastructure bill authorized and appropriated the funds for the SS4A grants. And of course, the whole goal is to improve road race safety by reducing or eliminating the fatalities and serious injuries through adoption of an action plan and then implementation, hopefully, of those projects going forward. It's all modes: pedestrian, bicycle, transit users, motorists, even commercial vehicles. Third paragraph, again, the MPO developed this action plan in coordination with the city and with the assistance of Neil Schaefer. VJ is present with us today.
There he is.
Thank you very much, as always, putting together a very high quality product. And what that action plan does, it qualifies you to go to the implementation plan. I refer to the implementation plan as the construction. You're actually getting dollars and you're gonna do what? Make geometric improvements, sidewalk improvements, signals, so forth. Public participation plan was followed, and this last round, Mr. Chairman, we did not receive any additional comments, but I definitely want to stress, in the previous 2 rounds, we had over 1,000 comments received from citizens. So great job again to Neil Schaefer and their staff. TCC recommends adoption of the safety action plan. And again, this is just a cover page. It is voluminous, like most of our documents. It's on the city website. And hopefully it's going to lead to good projects on the ground. And would you want to talk about this afternoon?
Well, let me get a motion in a second in favor of this resolution. Do I hear a motion in a second?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Yes, this afternoon at 4 o'clock, the city council will meet in special session to adopt this plan, which then paves the way, forgive the transportation pun, for an implementation grant application that will be submitted middle May. And I want to say thank you to Lauren Winters, grants director for the city. And then BJ, thank you, and Neil Schaefer again for your invaluable help. Bethany Daniel, there, thank you with the street department. Any questions about this resolution? Hearing none, are you ready to vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. And the resolution is adopted. Thank you. Next item is item 4, review, discussion, and adoption of resolution 2024-10 to adjust the Kentucky Metropolitan Planning Area boundary based on the 2020 census. This was done in collaboration with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet's request. I'll entertain a motion in a second.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All right, there is a bit of a wrinkle. We need to amend this map, so Mr. Williams.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. With further discussion with representatives from Hopkinsville, Christian County, and Oak Grove, we wanted adjusted. And if you refer to this handout, Resolution 24-13, it has the revised map. I just want to speak briefly on this again. We talked about adjusting these boundaries back in August of last year at the meeting. And again, I just want to clarify, if you expand the boundary, it's not going to entitle you, you're not going to receive more funding. If you draw in or shrink the boundary, it's not going to cut your funding. What it does pertain to specifically, which types of funding, and then let's just pick one of the road projects in there, state routes up there, excuse me, county route 117. It would then verify which cross-section would be built. Is it going to be built as an urban cross-section with curb and gutter, hopefully, or would it stay as a rural cross-section where you have open ditches and slopes? I wish it did increase funding. If it did, all MPOs would do it, and that's probably why they don't do that. But again, just a point of clarification there, and if you refer to, again, the 24-13 resolution, it's got the revised map with the boundary. It kept it as it was previously. I'm just going to refer to 41A, everything back to the east side remains the same. And then on the west side, north of the Fort Campbell Military Base, that was specifically looked at and added. And then the 345 and 117 close the boundaries or make it easier to show and define the boundary. And that's what I've got for now.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to come to the City of Hopkinsville Mayor Representative to make the motion to amend this resolution to include the revised map, and any comments.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to amend the motion that is on the floor for 24-10 to amend to include a substitute resolution 2024-13. This resolution would restore the boundaries to the existing MPA with the addition of the area adjacent to 117 as indicated by Mr. Williams.
You've heard the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you for that second. Any further comment from anybody?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, this is something we do every 10 years, following the census designations of urban areas. So, you know, we may have missed that piece of the puzzle in central office, but that's why we have to get local input on this sort of thing. So, so I appreciate, you know, you guys taking a hard look at that, and I think this is a very good boundary.
Thank you. Any other comment or question? Seeing none, hearing none, are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Anybody wish to abstain? The motion passes. That amended map and resolution is adopted. Thank you. Next item is item 5, review, discussion, adoption of resolution 2024-11 for the established targets for the CTS's transit asset management performance measures. Mr. Williams.
Mr. Chairman, second paragraph, back in 2015, the FAST Act mandated the establishment of the performances and outcome-based programs. That's why we talk about all this data and all these targets and so forth. CTS has developed their current targets. Fourth paragraph, it said targets and said plan address the state of good repair of the rolling stock, their buses, all their equipment and vehicles, infrastructure, equipment, and facilities. Next paragraph, your targets are attached, of course, behind it. Attachment A, TCC members accept the TAM targets provided by CTS and agree to plan and program projects that contribute toward the accomplishment of said targets. And of course, Mr. Mike is here. You got any more specific questions?
Okay, I'll entertain a motion and a second for resolution 2024-11.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, thank you. Any further discussion, Mike? Mr. Ringenberg, you got anything you want to add?
No, it's on there. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. The biggest challenge we got right now is the transit center went from a 4 down to a 3. Until we can get it fixed, it'll go back up to a 4. That's the only big change on there.
Okay, nothing that money and time wouldn't fix. All right. Any other comment or question? Seeing none, hearing none, are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Anybody wish to abstain? This resolution 2024-11 is adopted. Next item, item 6, review, discussion, adoption of resolution 2024-12 for CTS's agency safety plan for fiscal '24. Mr. Williams.
Mr. Chairman, third paragraph, again, CTS has developed their safety action plan. Next, whereas 14-day public comment was filed and received no comments, nor previously, I forgot to mention that. TCC accepts CTS safety plan provided by the CTS, and the board here adopts said safety plan.
Mayor Golden, I know what you mean by acronyms. It's a mouthful. I'll entertain a motion in a second on resolution 2024-12.
Motion for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any comment or discussion about this resolution? Seeing none, hearing none, are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Anybody wish to abstain? This resolution is adopted. Next item, item 7, air quality by Mark Corrigan. It just wouldn't be an MPO meeting without you, Mark. You are recognized, Mr. Corrigan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a couple things to share this morning. As you may have heard me mention in the past, but I want you to be aware that TDEC's Office of Energy Programs is planning to release a Level 2 electric vehicle charging infrastructure rebate program sometime in the second half, probably, of this year. This is going to be focused on multi-unit housing. So if there's any interest in developers or communities that have multi-unit housing that may ultimately want to install some electric vehicle charging infrastructure, make them aware of this. This will be a one-time probably opportunity from us with the remaining VW grant funds that we have from the beneficiary mitigation plan. And we also anticipate later on this year, probably the last round from the VW Mitigation Trust in diesel vehicle replacement. So if there's any interest in that, we're looking to probably offer all of our categories, including school buses, transit buses, and trucks that we offered before, all of them at once, to probably spend down the remaining few funds that we have out of that roughly $45 million that we received under this settlement. So those opportunities are coming up, but if you just can't wait till then, just yesterday, EPA announced the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle Grant Program, about $932 million nationwide in a competitive grant opportunity for schools, municipalities, and states to replace heavy-duty trucks, Class 6 and 7 trucks. States, municipalities, and school buses would be the eligible entities. So if you mayors have any vehicles in your fleets that you might want to replace, it looks like school buses, refuse haulers, dump trucks, transit buses, delivery trucks, utility trucks, bucket trucks, and so forth would be the eligible types of vehicles to look to replace with electric vehicles. And that application for funding would be due July 25th. So there's a little bit of a window there for that opportunity. In your packet, you saw a table that I know you all are familiar with. This is, typical ozone data that we kind of track as the ozone season moves along. And as you look at it, it's still early in this ozone season. You probably noted that the fourth value at the Christian County, Kentucky monitor there towards the bottom of the table was at 0.070 parts per million, or 70 parts per billion, against a standard of 70 parts per billion. So we know that last year we potentially had at least 3 events that were above the level of the standard. To calculate the design value, it's the average of the 3 years, so we still really look pretty good. But there's still some room for improvement, since especially we've showing that ozone was high in this area at least on 3 or 4 occasions last year. So there's room there for improvement. So let's keep up our efforts with respect to ozone. So changing gears briefly, you've heard me at the last few meetings talk about EPA's reconsideration of a fine particulate, or PM 2.5 National Ambient Air Quality Standard. Well, on February 7th, EPA strengthened the NAAQS for PM 2.5. Currently, the level of that standard for the annual standard is at 12 micrograms per cubic meter. EPA is lowering that to 9 micrograms per cubic meter. Excuse me. So when we look locally at the 2 monitors in the Clarksville area, there's one up in Christian County, Kentucky, that based on EPA's published data from 2020 to 2022, it's measured at 9.2 micrograms per cubic meter. Similarly, the monitor here in Montgomery County for that same time period has measured a value of 7 micrograms per cubic meter. So right now, the monitor up in Kentucky is above that standard. There are a couple issues to be aware of when we think about this. One is EPA is not going to be using 2020 to 2022 data when they actually make designations for areas that are not meeting the standard. They'll probably use much more recent information. So we still have an opportunity to influence those values. And so I think that's really important. A couple other things that I think are worth mentioning is, one is that EPA has noticed one of the manufacturers of one of those monitors has a high bias. And so that actually includes the monitor that's up in Kentucky. EPA will, we're told, make an adjustment to those values. They're not expected to be large, but we do expect maybe a small decrease after EPA has made that adjustment. There's also an opportunity for states that believe that wildfire smoke had an undue influence on those monitors that are above the standard. So Kentucky will have an opportunity later this year to send a demonstration to EPA that says, hey, this monitor was unduly influenced by wildfire smoke on these days, and if they can make that demonstration to the EPA, then some of that data gets to be excluded from the actual final design value calculation. So there's a couple factors in there that might affect the final number that we're gonna be watching carefully over the coming months. This new standard becomes effective on May the 6th, so that's just around the corner. The next step would be for states to make recommendations to the EPA for non-attainment areas, the geographic extent of the area, like for ozone. We know that in the past, EPA designated Christian County, Kentucky, and Montgomery County, Tennessee as the Clarksville area as non-attainment for ozone. Now, it's a long ways behind us, but now we're facing PM 2.5. So the states will make their recommendation by February 7th of next year, and then EPA will, if it's not delayed, make final designations by February 7th of 2026. So I want you all to be aware of those developments, but of particular interest to this body is that 1 year after designations, we would have to make a transportation conformity demonstration. So 12 months doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a pretty big lift if you've got to revise your plan, revise your tip, and model the emissions from the transportation network. So that's something we're gonna have to watch, because as soon as we know that we're gonna be on the hook for that, we'll have to start that process. 18 months after designation, then the states will have to make a demonstration to EPA how we're gonna bring these areas back into attainment with the standard by 2032. That's kind of the high-level overview. I wanted you to be aware that this has happened, that this is on our radars now, and you'll be hearing probably more from me and others as this develops over the coming months and years. Stan also asked me to make mention of a update that's in your packet from Melanie from the Federal Highway Administration. I think it's the first one that she's got listed there. I think it doesn't really apply to this MPO, but it will potentially to the Nashville MPO. The Federal Highway Administration had a performance measure for greenhouse gases that basically requires large MPOs to track greenhouse gas emissions over time and what they were doing to influence those measures. Thankfully, this MPO is not subject to that. And now, because the courts overturned it, no MPOs are subject to that. So that might be good news for some of our friends in places like Memphis and Nashville. That concludes the updates that I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Mark, question.
you're recognized.
Discussed in the past, but you said there's an exemption for wildfire. I live in South Christian, so I see the controlled burns on the ranges of Fort Campbell quite often. But is there a reporting from that, those events that we can include into that exemption as well?
You'd have to ask our friends in Kentucky if they are actually noticing that on the monitor, and if they're putting together a demonstration of that. Sometimes EPA will consider certain events like that to control burns, but not often. They usually will consider more like things that are not within, control of humans, like large wildfires, like the ones we had in Canada and out west for exceptional events. It might be worth the folks in Kentucky, bringing that up with EPA to see if they could make that demonstration, if they really feel like those control burns on the base actually will affect the monitor, and what they would need to do to make that demonstration to have some of those values removed from the calculation. It definitely would be worth Kentucky asking that question of EPA. But I don't know if control burns usually qualify or not. It's a grayer area than, say, wildfires.
And just one other question, like outside influence. So you've got like the counties themselves, but industrial areas outside of the county that have a prevailing wind pattern in that direction. How does that play into things?
Well, the monitor that's there in Kentucky is supposed to measure regional influence. It's supposed to be a regional air quality monitor. Unfortunately, there's some talk about actually really strong local influences. So that, from what I understand, is a conversation that Kentucky's having with EPA right now because the monitor may not be representative. In theory, if there was outside influence and EPA were to designate that monitor as non-attainment, and when they go to do those designations in the future, they would look at that outside influence and include that geography as part of the non-attainment area. So potentially, if they thought Cumberland fossil plant was a huge influence on that monitor, they might include Stewart County into the non-attainment area with Christian County and Montgomery County, let's say. So that's a part of the calculus later on when they start looking at how large that non-attainment area should be when they make designations based on all the influences that are making a difference to air quality on that monitor.
Thank you.
I'll just add that I know that our Energy and Environment Cabinet is very much aware of the Canadian wildfires issue. So, I believe they are working on asking EPA to exclude that data, but it's a pretty complicated process, and I think they're hiring a consultant actually to do that. Now, I don't know. I haven't heard them mention anything about the controlled burns on the base, so that's something that could be mentioned to them that they may not know about. So, I just wanted to add that.
Okay, any other comment or question for Mr. Corrigan? Thank you for that. We have a 12-month window of opportunity. Anything that happens bad after May 31st, we blame it on Stan. So Stan, just be ready. All right. Come to the microphone if you don't mind.
Not just Fort Campbell, but you got LBL that burns also. So we've looked at this in the past. Maybe at your next meeting, get an update on what Kentucky Air Quality is doing. It's time. The PM 2.5 is coming. Mark's
Okay.
verified that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment or question? Mr. Corrigan referenced part of Melanie Murphy's report, which is the greenhouse gas performance measures. And I'll call your attention to the last page in your packet. There are 3 other items on this report from Federal Highway. Is there anyone from Federal Highway here? I didn't see Ms. Murphy. Okay, so I'll just call your attention to the sheet in the packet. All right, we're now ready for item 9, update from TDOT and the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. TDOT, there you are. You're recognized. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Chairman. First, before I get in, I do just want to say, Stan, really appreciate the years working with you and been a great partner to get to know, so I wanted to say that. So I was asked to come and speak on TDOT has their new 3-year plan out. We have our 10-year plan that we'd come and presented on before. That was our fiscally constrained program. What that does is that feeds officially into our 3-year plan that goes to the General Assembly and is recognized and approved by the General Assembly. I'm proud to report that our plan has gone exactly according to plan. Every project that was in the 10-year plan has stayed in and stayed on track. That's a big deal for us. Last year, TDOT as a whole, we had a 91% success rate in delivering our projects on time within the fiscal year. That's been unheard of in the past. And Region 3, where I'm from, had an even higher success rate. All our projects were on schedule. But of interest to Montgomery County and the MPO, in the 3-year plan, we have the I-24 project that is from the Kentucky state line down to State Route 76. That's a $500 million project. It is still on track for construction in 2034, right away in 2030. Since the last time I have been here, the update on that is it has been decided that will go alternative delivery. So that's where we help to accelerate the engineering and construction design build type opportunity there. So that's in our posted alternative delivery program that's now on our website. The other major project we have in Montgomery County is State Route 48. That's a $300 million project. We are still on track to begin right-of-way acquisitions in 2025, next year, and construction in 2029. And that is, again, fully, funded in our 3-year plan there. As far as updates on that plan, engineering is progressing well. We have a site visit coming up May 9th. We'll be meeting out here on site to make sure all of our engineers see it in person. I can attest, it looks a lot different versus seeing in Google Earth or something versus actually driving a site. And all those utility poles look a little bit closer to the roadway, so we'll be out. And then we're in coordination with city traffic as far as multimodal accommodations on the route as well. So that is my update from the 3-year plan and the major projects we have in the MPO area. If there's any other questions or anything else, I'm happy to take them.
Okay, thank you for the report. Any comment or question? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Kentucky Transportation Cabinet.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that House Bill 266, which is the 2024 to 2026 biennial highway plan, was signed into law by the governor. And there are a few projects in this area that I could give you a brief update on, just let you know that they did make it into the plan. One is the reconstruction of the I-24 and Kentucky 115 interchange. We also have Kentucky 911, widen that to a 3-lane section from the railroad to Kentucky 115. Let's see, pavement condition on US 41A from mile point 4 to mile point 12.56. So that may be a little bit north of the metropolitan area, but it's close anyway. And let's see, also pavement condition on I-24. And there is another one, installation of interchange lighting on I-24, which I'm not sure exactly what the precise location is of that lighting, but it could possibly be within this area, but I'm not sure about that. The district might have more information. Now, one thing I did want to caution about is that it's my understanding that it is over-programmed a little bit in terms of state funds, which is not necessarily a bad thing because it gives us something to spend money on if some of the projects do get delayed, which that does tend to happen sometime as we approach construction. So, there is that caveat, but hopefully most of those projects will move forward over the next 2 years.
Okay, good report. Any comment or question for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet? Hearing none, seeing none, we're now ready for new business. Any member of the public wish to address the board? Any member of the board have any final comments? Daniel?
Thank you, Chair. You've heard me talk about the Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan. Next Friday, May 3rd, from 10 to 11 a.m. at the Ajax Turner Center on Clark Street, we'll be having our first public outreach event. Mike will be there representing CTS as well as several other providers. Looking to gather information from the public. I can send around a flyer that has more information on the event.
Okay, thank you. Any comment or question? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We did have a small wrinkle with item 4. I do want to thank Stan as well as Jill, because when that was brought to your attention, that was resolved very quickly, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other comment or question from the board? Seeing none, we're now ready to adjourn. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Without objection, we're adjourned and lunch is served.